So
Yeah,
how can you
so
help? Like,
true.
what advice would you give to our HR community about thinking about, we're not telling you all you have to take on the full burden of the change, but
Yeah,
how can they be more actively engaged in helping leaders through these difficult times?
yeah. And I think it's interesting because I've had some conversations recently with some HR leaders who have said, we forget sometimes in HR that we need support too. And we're
Yeah,
out there helping everybody else and we forget to help ourselves.
right. It's a
So,
valid point.
yeah. And so I think one of the things that HR can do, because a lot of times HR, so like when I was in HR years ago, it was I'm here to support manufacturing, or I'm here to
Mm-hmm.
support engineering, or I'm here to support
Right.
sales. So I think if HR teams can come together and kind of put out on the table, and maybe you use Post-its, maybe you use whiteboards,
Sure.
what are
Yeah,
all the changes we've got going on, and just get it all out there.
I like
And
that.
how do these things intertwine and or even maybe uh, sort of butt up against each other? And
Right.
put some sort of a mapping together,
Okay.
just again, just to create that clarity even for HR, right?
Hi there, and welcome to the HR podcast. This is Linda Misegadis.
And Cyndi Manuel, and we'll be your co hosts. After spending years working in and with HR, we thought, why not start a podcast to support the important HR community? We believe the way things have always been done isn't necessarily what's going to work in the future. So we're diving into topics that support HR and working women as they navigate the future of work. We're talking about professional growth and also how we can support each other as human beings.
We can't wait to bring you insights from HR experts, thought leaders, and inspiring women who are making a real difference in their organization and communities. They'll share their journeys and tips on balancing work and life in a better way. We're excited to learn alongside you and hope you'll pick up some great takeaways, from tips and tricks to worksheets that you can actually use in your daily life. So grab your favorite beverage,
or lace up your walking shoes and join us for the Her Resources podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Her Resources podcast. I'm in the studio with my, let's see, what's a really good word? Stupendous, maybe?
Ooh,
Stupendous. I don't know if I've used that one yet. So,
I like that.
co-host Cyndi
I
Manuel,
like that.
yes.
Thank you.
How
And
are you
back at you.
doing?
And
Yes.
good. We are
Yeah,
getting ready for the first Broncos
I
preseason
know.
game
Football
tonight.
season, woo woo! I love football, and basketball is right blended in. So I love, those are two of my favorite sports,
They're
are
both
football and
fast
basketball.
sports,
They are. I like it.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
baseball's just drags on too long for me. It's
Baseball,
just
I go and people watch. You know what I mean?
me too. Yeah,
When
like I don't mind going
it's,
and sitting out, kicking
yeah.
my feet. Sometimes I even take a nap out there. I mean, it's it's great. Drives Jim absolutely nuts. So, but I'm like, I kind of like being outside, but
Have a
the baseball game
beer, have a
itself,
hot dog, have a nap.
exactly.
Yeah,
Right, that's
that's
it. I
good.
mean, what a great time to go, and
We
we,
should do the
and do
Rockies
that. So,
marketing for them, Linda.
right, I know. Well, we'll say if you invest a little more money in the players, then hey, just saying, yeah, it might make the game a little more exciting.
That's
So, but
hilarious.
no, that's great. I'm super excited for football season,
I
and
am
it's always
too.
fun to get kicked off, and
Yeah,
have a little fun. So that'll
same.
be great. Having
Yes.
some friends and fam over, and that's what a great way to celebrate football.
Everybody brings food that
Oh,
you should
nice.
not eat more than once in a month. And it's
Yes.
amazing. My brother's doing this smoked macaroni and cheese. I'm like, what the heck is
Oh,
that? And that sounds
yeah.
really naughty and delightful at the same
Yes,
time. So
absolutely. No, that sounds really good. Well, I
so
have
I'm
to,
excited.
I'll give a shout out to our producer. By the time this episode
Logan,
airs, his birthday will be long past, but that's okay. We'll give
happy
him a shout out for his happy
birthday.
birthday. And he's actually in Maine, doing a little camping, and he tried lobster for the first time
Okay,
and
what
went
did he think?
paddleboarding on a lake. So I think he liked it. He likes shrimp, so texturally, it probably was good
Yeah.
with it. And to me, shrimp is very fishy. So if he likes shrimp, he probably would be okay with lobster.
I
So
love me a good lobster tail.
yeah, I gotta admit,
Especially
I've
when
not done
you're,
it.
on the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh
going to
my
be
goodness. Yeah,
really
you can't
tasty.
ask for a better place to try lobster. It was like the
Yeah,
first time I tried salmon and halibut, I was in Alaska. So, now nothing ever compares to it. And
right.
so he'll have a similar experience, right? If he
Yeah.
loved Maine lobster, he'll probably be like, "Oh, nothing will ever
Come
compare
back
to
to
it
a
again."
landlocked state and never
Exactly.
it just won't be the same.
No,
Yeah.
it won't be the same. So huge shout out to him. But I'm
Oh,
really
happy
excited
birthday,
about.
Logan.
Yes, yeah, I know my baby's getting older.
Oh.
So, but I'm excited to be here today because we have this very special guest on our show today, and some of you may
Really?
know her. Yeah, exactly. Some people might know her, but maybe they don't. But her name is Cyndi Manuel. And
I've heard
she
of
is
her.
actually, have you heard her name
Yeah.
before? She is a nationally respected change management leader with nearly 20 years of experience helping organizations and the people inside them move through change with clarity, compassion, and practical action. She's worked across multiple industries, including healthcare, retail, manufacturing, public sector, and not for profits, guiding teams through major system rollouts, cultural shifts, and really everything in between. Cyndi leads with empathy and clarity, offering practical tools to help teams understand the why, which is so important, behind
Yes.
change and build the skills to move forward. Her approach is rooted in co creation, not top down mandates, because people are far more invested when they've had a hand in shaping the path forward. Cyndi is also the founder and CEO of the Delta Principle, a boutique consulting firm based in Denver that's known for designing people first strategies that actually stick. And that's so important because we're going to talk about that, but that is one of the key components.
Yeah.
Whether she's coaching executives and leading change, facilitate facilitating training for employees on navigating successful change, coaching up and coming change management professionals, or leading change management efforts for global brands. Cyndi shows up with one goal: to make change feel a little less scary and a whole lot more human. Cyndi believes that change is not just a business strategy, it's personal. Hey, welcome to the studio, Cyndi.
Thank you for having me.
This is so much
I am
fun.
really excited about this, though. Thank you for,
Yeah.
saying, hey, Cyndi, why don't we do something on change management?
Yeah, I know.
Sounds
We
good.
always kind of like talk a little bit of change
We
management with all of
do.
our
On
guests.
the
Like it kind of,
periphery.
it kind of comes
Yeah,
in, and I'm like, you know what? We need to do just a
I
change
love it.
episode and who better to do it than you? And so I'm really excited to be able to do this with you today because, I mean, it's such an important topic and
I
it's
appreciate
never
that.
not relevant, right? I mean, the only constant is
Seriously.
change, right? So
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And one of the things, as I was kind of thinking through when you suggested this, I
yeah.
started thinking through, I don't feel like I don't want to approach it as here's a model or here's the tools. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not about the what you do in change
Mhm.
management. It's about the why you do it and the how you do it, I think is
I like
just a
that.
little slant that maybe we'll take in our conversation today, which
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward
absolutely.
to.
Me too. Well, let's just start with a big question. Why do you think so many change efforts miss the mark when it comes to real people?
Mm,
Because inevitably you
yeah.
hear about this all the time, right? Or change failures, and they don't always call them
Yes.
change failures. They'll say project failures, or the new initiative didn't go off, which is really it's a change failure. So is
I
really
would
what it comes down
agree.
to. So why
Yeah.
do you think why are they missing the mark?
Yeah. Such a good question. I think at the end of the day, it's not about, it is about the system or the change, the
Hmm.
organizational change, but it's also, you're not going to hit the mark unless you treat people as the starting point, not as an
Right.
afterthought, right?
I like
So,
that.
so many plans focus on logistics and they don't focus
Yeah.
on emotional readiness. And
So
especially in the
true.
times that we're in right now, people need to be,
Yes.
they need to feel prepared and we need to give them the respect to not just spin change. I hate when people
Right.
say, we're going
I
to
do
spin the
too.
message. And I'm like,
Spin the
oh gosh,
message.
no, let's
Yeah.
not do that. Let's
Mm-mm.
just have respect for people. And people don't resist because they're trying to be difficult. They
So
just
true.
may feel unheard or
Yeah,
unprepared.
right.
And, change is personal. It's not
It
just
is.
operational. So,
So, so true.
yeah,
Well, and if I think about that, then like what does co-creation of change management really look like in action? And
yeah,
give us some examples of like where you've seen it work really well.
yeah. That's another really good question. Thanks. And that was a big part of the intro too, is I love co-creation. I don't want to just come
Yeah.
in and say, here's how you do it. And here's all the templates. And,
Right.
my
Well, and
team
those
and I just
often
like to,
fail, right? Because, I
absolutely.
mean, if that's all you want out of it, you literally could just buy a book. I mean,
You
there
could
are,
Google it. You
you
could chat
could, yeah.
GPT it.
Exactly. You
Right?
could, but you could
Yeah.
buy the binder
To
and
buy the
it can
binder.
sit on the shelf, like everything else ends up when you
Yes.
don't really think about how you do that. So I
So
love
true.
that you focus in on that co-creation. So tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that.
Yeah. It's really building with people, not for them. So
Ah,
I like to always start with, talking to people. We do these change readiness interviews, and I can't tell you, Linda, how impactful they are for the client, but also for the technical teams that we're often
oh,
working
I
with or the
bet.
project team
Yeah.
that we're working with, because it gives us early insight into what are those lived experiences that kind of
Yeah.
gives us insight to hidden barriers or maybe pain points.
Oh, great
Um,
points. Yeah.
and also, a lot of times we hear people say, nobody's ever asked me. Nobody ever asked me how I felt about
Isn't that
change. So,
amazing when you hear
yeah,
that? Like, what do you mean nobody's ever
it
asked you? Yeah,
validates, that there's an
absolutely.
emotional side to this thing. And
Yeah.
so I always think, obviously we want to talk to the leaders and the people who are, the head of this important change, because what is that vision? But we also need to talk to the frontline staff. What's a day in the life for you?
Yeah.
Who are our informal influencers or your change champions, right? The people, cream rises to the top, I always say. And who are
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
people that are going to influence the change and model those behaviors that you're looking for?
Yeah. That makes a
And
big
even who are
difference.
some super users, which again is
Yeah,
your frontline staff a lot of times. They're the ones doing the things
absolutely.
day to day. So, it increases ownership and it reduces resistance.
Mhm.
So there's some actionable steps that I feel like our HR community and our leadership community could maybe take. And
Yeah.
the first one of those would really be just post those collaborative listening sessions on the front end. When you decide
Okay.
there's a change, sit down with people. We always talk about feedback, which is so
Yeah.
important because, communication is two ways. It's not just
Mhm.
I'm telling you something, I'm gathering your feedback. But if you can have those sort of listening sessions on the front end where you're really getting into what is a day in the life, what are your pain points, things like
That
that,
makes sense.
then that's really important. And then also just really sharing what the plans are, being really transparent, and also being willing to iterate where possible when you receive that feedback. So instead of just saying, oh, we already have our plan in place, be curious, consider what are maybe some of the things that we should be considering based on the feedback that we're receiving. So those are a couple of things that
Those are
people
great
can do.
points, and what I like what you said in all of that is what I didn't hear you say is sit down with the executives, and talk to them about what's important to them.
Yeah,
It what you said was, "We sit down and we talk with all the people," right? So, I'm sure you're having a conversation with the executives,
for
but you're
sure.
talking to all the people, right? It's at the multiple layers
Yeah,
because change impacts every level of the organization,
that's right.
right? And most of the time, I mean, we see it frequently, executives or even sometimes, like, maybe senior mid-level managers,
Huge.
they're not always, as tuned in at the highest level, but you get into that middle management and then you get into the
Mm,
frontline workers. They're boots on the street, right? They're the ones
that's
who are
right.
doing the work, they're feeling the
Yes.
pain, they know the things that need to happen. So I love that
That's
you
such
said
a good
that that's
point, Linda,
important.
because with the middle managers, directors, and things, we're expecting them to share the vision of leadership and we're expecting them to support the frontline staff, right? They're in a really
Right.
important position, back to what you were just saying. I love that. So we
Yeah.
really have to give them some love and support and ask them how we can best support them, ask them what their previous experience with change might have been. So
Right?
really, really huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think that's well, can you give us a couple of examples of like where have you seen this work really well?
Yeah. So I currently have a client that's a retail client and they're amazing. And they are a lot of times I'll go into a project and there's the project team, there's my team, and we're there to support the people side of the project. But we don't get a lot of interaction from the client. And I feel
Okay.
like sometimes the clients are thinking, you guys are here because you know what the solution is, right? Especially when it's
Sure.
technology. But
Yeah.
when I think that when the client is willing to meet us halfway and willing to ask questions of us too and willing to get invested in that, those are the
Right.
best kinds of projects. And so this retail client that I'm currently working with, they have various districts across North America and
Mhm.
they have what they refer to as district captains. And those
Oh,
district
okay.
captains are like change champions. And so we
Interesting.
did like a train the trainer with these guys, and they were going to go and they were going to train the store managers and things like that. And I thought, okay, that'll be the end of it. They have been incredible in just
Oh,
really digging in and asking a lot of questions that
yeah.
they anticipate their store managers may ask, they anticipate their associates may ask. So that's a really great, example of co-creation, right? We are definitely co-creating with them. In that same project, there's also a sponsor who is amazing. He will jump onto the
Yeah.
Teams chat with these district
Yeah.
captains because a lot of times the questions that come in, especially again around technology change,
Mhm.
is not necessarily around functionality. It's about
Right.
process. It's about
Yes.
policy. And we coming in from the functionality side of things, we don't
Right.
know what the process or,
That's true.
practices should be, what the policies should be. And this guy is just in that chat constantly. And
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
have seen a huge decrease in questions in a pretty quick period of time. And I think
Mhm.
it's because everybody, you know, threw their hat in the ring and is co-creating right along with us. So
I like that.
yeah, they know their teams, they know their culture. We
Right.
know,
Yeah.
the solution and we know how to support the people. So it's a lovely co-creation.
I like that, and what I see so often happen, especially when organizations use third-party consulting firms to come in and help support, is that it isn't a co-creation model.
Yeah.
The consulting firm comes in, they do all these interviews, they take all of their, industry expertise and, knowledge from other organizations, and they come up with something, and they write it all up, and they hand it over to them. And those are the ones that honestly, they end up on the shelf. No change
Yeah.
ever really happens. You
Yeah.
see it happen so often, but when they're engaged, they're part of the process. What you've
Yes.
described, I mean, that's a game changer to help ensure that not only does the change begin, it remains, right? That it actually
Yeah.
sticks
They
with it.
feel they've
So
got skin in the game. You're absolutely right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nope, I like that very much. No, I
Yeah.
think that's really good. Well, and so what I love about what you're saying too is that it's not just about inviting people to the table, it's about making sure they have a voice. And so
Mhm.
the next question I've got for you is something that I know our listeners struggle with. Like, how can change management professionals, HR professionals, and leaders balance empathy with
Mm.
accountability when managing change? Because it isn't all about feelings, right? I mean,
That's such a
there are
good point.
tangible expectations about this, so it's not all about
Yeah.
not just the people side and the feeling side. So talk a little
That's
bit about
right.
that.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, you're not just making change just for the sake of making change, right? There's enough going
Right.
on in business nowadays. You throw a change in there, it feels like a curveball many times. So you're absolutely right. So empathy is really about, understanding where people are coming from and helping them move forward. Sharing with them, the grace and even a lot of times, for leaders and middle managers, again, I always recommend to them that they be transparent, that they be authentic, and that they are open to sharing, to be a little vulnerable, share,
Sure. That
I'm a
makes
little
sense.
nervous about this too, Linda, but we're in this
Yeah.
thing together, right? We're
I
going to
like
move
that.
forward. Accountability is where you help them move forward. And you
Okay.
do that by sharing, why are we doing this? They really
Okay.
need to understand that, not only from an organizational perspective, but like I think back to the city. We had,
Yeah.
I don't know how many agencies, Linda, but
Oh, yeah.
the why for the city was one thing. The why for each of those agencies was something else.
So
And then
true.
partnering that with WIFMs, which is what's in it
Yeah.
for me, and also impacts. Like, what do I need to know? Like, I might not, again,
Right.
might not like it all,
Yeah.
but I need to know what's coming, what's in it for me, why we're doing this, and maybe timelines and things like that, just so
Yeah.
that I have clarity so I can move forward and there is that accountability.
I like
So,
that.
one of the things that, a couple things that I suggest to HR folks is, share message guides, share talking points, share FAQs with
Okay.
those middle managers, with leadership, so that everybody is saying the same thing. You got
Yeah.
that consistency. We're trying to always add to FAQs and things like that. Arm your leaders and your people leaders, especially, with what they need to be able to lead effectively.
I like
Um,
that.
yeah. So,
I think it's so important. Communication is one of those things that is just often forgotten about. And we've had
mhm.
we had Heather Redfern on who talked
Yeah, she's
to our,
great.
our listeners about communication and just really thinking about how critical that is and how important it is in your change initiatives because people need to know what's going on. And we
That's right.
understand you can't always tell everything. There are certain things that maybe you can't share, but
Yeah.
then just say that too. If you say,
Yeah.
listen, we're sharing everything we can with you, and as we
Yes.
can share more, we will, and you feel like there's honesty and transparency in that,
Yeah.
people are more likely to buy into that than when you paint a picture or you spin a message or you can tell they're not telling you something
People
and then
know.
you start, and
Yeah.
we all know in the absence of information, you'll just make it up. So,
That's so true. That is so
yeah.
true. One of the things that we created just in seeing like some of the strongest leaders, you had asked me for the example before, that
Yeah.
gentleman at that retail organization is one of the strongest leaders I've seen. So,
I
over
like
the
that.
past 20 years, there have been some patterns that have
Okay.
emerged. And so there are sort of four things that I started to notice
Mhm.
that really solid leaders and managers and directors and things do consistently. And so,
Okay.
of course, you have to come up with some sort of a model, right? Or some sort
Yeah.
of a word so that it's
Right.
really easy to remember. So, there's four things that I have seen consistently, and I call it the CARE model.
Okay.
And so CARE really stands for curiosity. I know you're shocked at that, right, Linda?
Yes.
That's like one of my favorite words.
Right.
Curiosity, attention,
Okay.
resilience, and empathy.
I
So
like that.
curiosity is asking people, during a change, things like, what's coming up for you right now, Linda?
Yeah.
Instead of just like, oh, let me tell you what it's going to do for you. It's
Yes,
asking those
yes.
questions and really listening. And
Absolutely.
with that, you have to pay attention. So turn off distractions, during your
Yeah.
one-on-ones. Use the approach that I love, which is the two ears and one mouth philosophy. So
Right.
listen twice as much as you talk. Resilience to me is really important because leaders are modeling that behavior. So highlight
Great point.
small wins, show progress and momentum, again, be
Yes.
vulnerable, but
Mhm.
also talk about, what I'm going to move forward with this thing, even though I'm uncomfortable too, Linda. I'm going to move
Yes.
forward with this, and I'm hoping
Yeah.
that you're going to come along with me. And I
I
think
like
that
that.
just, that invites people to be
It
resilient
does.
with you.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I love that what you said in your example of what works is that sponsorship, because that's
Yeah.
another thing that
Huge.
I've seen throughout my career is that you might start out with a strong executive sponsor who's there
Yeah.
maybe more for the decision making, maybe the, signing the check to get things started.
Yeah.
Um, and then you never hear from them again. And the problem with that is that if you're not getting that support at the top down, then kind of to your point is like, why would I buy into it if you're not bought into it? And so it's really hard to see that. So I love what you said there around having that strong sponsor, but that they stay engaged and they're a part of it all, right? I mean, that's
like
so
a full
important.
package.
Yeah,
You're right.
exactly.
Yeah,
No,
you're
for
absolutely
sure.
right. We
Well, let's
experienced
talk.
that with Beth Machan too, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
huge shout out to Beth, because she stayed engaged through it all. She gave us the space we needed, right, to make the decisions and do the things. So empowered. We were empowered to do what needed to be done. But she was there, she was present, and she was consistent in our messaging. So you wouldn't have called one of us and then called Beth, and she would have given you a different answer than what we gave you.
We were all on the same page.
We were in lockstep, and I think that made all the difference in the world, because that was a lot of change that we were driving. And it was
and even
successful.
when we maybe made a few missteps along the way, which we owned and kind of figured out how we can mitigate some of that, Beth was right there with us to support us, to take, the accountability as well, and the responsibility as well. And she was such a great example of a good sponsor. So you're absolutely right, Linda.
I totally agree. No, it makes a big difference. Well, so let's talk a little bit about planning. So tell our listeners how you plan for the human side, not just the business side, when it comes to transformations, right? Because I'm sure you go into all these different organizations, they all have different cultures, they're different business models, but at the end of the day, they all also have people. So how do you plan for the human side of change?
I think if it weren't for the people, change would be easy, right?
It'd be a walk in the park.
I mean, I'm one of the people, I'm sometimes like, okay, I'm feeling, you and I have talked about this before, like a change comes up maybe, and I sit there and think, okay, I should be the one on the early adopter side saying, let's do this thing. But there's times where I'm like, gives me a little pause.
Absolutely. No, it's true.
Need a little more information about that.
That's right. No,
so
true.
Again, I think people leaders are so critical in this. And so one of the things that I always, recommend to them is, don't just consider, okay, when are we going live with this thing? Right. No matter whatever this thing is, whatever the change is, whatever the transformation is.
Yeah.
Consider along the way workload. People don't just work on these changes. They have their day jobs.
That's so true.
Are they feeling burnt out? Do they have stress? Maybe they have personal stress that you aren't even aware of, right? And team culture, like, how are we going to keep people feeling like, we're all in this thing together? So one of the things that I love doing is a leading change coaching with leaders. And so it's, something where I go into an organization or as a part of the change management, just meet with the leaders, meet with managers, and just remind them, first of all, they need, and you've heard me say this before too, put on your oxygen mask first before you can support anyone else. Right. I walked into a manufacturing group organization that I was working with, and they had a location in Texas.
Okay.
And I was there with their HR person, who was awesome. And we were going to do this leading change coaching with them. And it was a couple of hours. We got into the room, and it was a hot day in Texas. And
what? It's hot in Texas?
I know. So already people are in a bad mood, right?
Absolutely, yes.
I walk into the room, and Tammy, the HR person, and I looked at each other like, oh gosh, what have we walked into? Because there's these people just sitting at the table with their arm
crossed, maybe slouched down in the chair a little bit. Yeah.
Looking at us like, what are you going to do for me?
I've been one of those people before, where I'm like, why am I here? And,
why am I here?
Yeah, exactly.
I have so many other things I could be doing right now.
Absolutely,
and you're encroaching on 2 hours of my time that I will not get back. But what we did, the way that we approached this leading change, and again, I talked to Tammy, this HR person, to say, let's kind of plan for, it's not a one size fits all, right? What do you
Right.
think we tried to anticipate some of the reactions, some of the
Okay.
things that we could do. We got people up moving around. So one of the things that I like to do is do an icebreaker when I first start meeting
Okay.
with people, just to get them
Yeah.
up moving around. So one of the icebreakers that I like to do is where I have people write on a Post-it, you know how much I love Post-its, just a
Yes.
message of encouragement, because it
Okay.
is not easy to lead change.
Yeah. Nope.
So write a message of encouragement, and it could be something as simple as celebrate progress, even when the
Yeah.
finish line feels far away. So I give them like a couple of examples, but people start
Yeah.
to write a message, and I have
Okay.
them post it up on a whiteboard. And then I tell them, okay, now back up to the whiteboard and
Uh-huh.
take the one that means the most to you.
Oh,
So
I like that.
people start to do this, and I start to look
Yeah.
around the room, and people are getting excited. They're starting to
Yeah.
smile and they're starting to
Okay.
talk. And because they are being treated as real people, we are helping them to put
Right.
their oxygen masks on first.
Right. I like that.
So I think it's, just really, some actionable steps is really to include that mental health, include how to breathe.
Yeah.
One of the things we
Yes.
do in that training too is let's do box breathing. And again, people, roll their eyes and I'm like, I know I'm going to teach you how to
Absolutely.
breathe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and then we talk about, okay, now if this worked for you and this took all of maybe, a minute tops,
Right.
how can you do this with your teams? When you see
Yeah.
someone is stressed out, they're working the line, they're super stressed out, could you take a minute, ask them to just step off the line with you, take a walk with you, do a little bit of breathing, just ask them how they're doing, genuinely doing.
Right.
And people started to go, oh, by the end of that session, we had people coming up to us saying, have you invited so-and-so to this training? Because boy, that person could
Oh.
really use this training. So it's more
Oh.
like the human side of leading
Yeah.
change and less
Yep.
here's the templates and the methodology, which
Right.
that's all very important too. But you have
It
to
is. Yeah.
consider,
No.
again, just the change readiness and creating a way to release some of the pressure when it comes to
Absolutely.
change.
I love that so much. That's a great one. Well, so especially in 2025, there are so many industries that are facing economic and political
Mm,
turbulence. There is so much going on across the country. You and I talked recently with
yeah.
one of our guests about the rollback of DEI. We're starting to see a lot of uncertainty that's happening because of
Yes.
what's happening at the federal level and how that's trickling down into organizations as they're trying to sort through how this is all supposed to work together. So,
Yeah.
what does effective change management have in supporting organizations through these challenges? Like, how can
Yeah.
organizations use change to help support through that?
At the Delta Principle, we are transforming the way you experience change. Have you ever experienced an organizational change where your employees pushed back because it was too much, too fast, or they just didn't understand why they couldn't do things the way they've always done them? What about where communication was non-existent or unorganized, with important updates getting lost in the shuffle, leaving people confused? And have you ever experienced change where morale was at an all-time low because the change felt overwhelming and not aligned with your organization's culture? If you are being asked to lead an important organizational change, especially if you're new to leading change, or if you're just feeling overwhelmed, the Delta Principle is here to support you. We work closely with you as a trusted partner, co-creating real-world solutions to address your unique challenges, and we equip you and your organization for future success. Are you gearing up for your next transformation journey or exploring ways to strengthen your change management skills? Then let's connect. This year, we're thrilled to introduce Leading Change, a training designed for leaders driving organizational initiatives, and Navigating Change, a training tailored to empower teams and adapting to change with confidence. Our coaching and training sessions are fully customizable to meet your organization's unique needs. Reach out today to see how we can partner with you to make your next change a success. You can find us on LinkedIn or by emailing us at info@thedeltaprinciple.com. Yeah, and it's such a great point, Linda. And we even talked recently with LaToya Lindsay, who comes from
Right.
a nonprofit, Colorado Public Radio, and
Yes.
they've lost some funding, and so
Yep.
it is a reality. I try and limit myself from turning on the news so much, just
Yeah.
because
It's
it doesn't
overwhelming.
feel very hopeful right now, right? In
Absolutely. I
many
agree.
ways. So, I think in 2025, change is not a choice any longer. It's just the climate.
Yeah.
It just feels like
Right.
the climate. And
It
that's where I
does.
feel like, change management professionals, I feel like HR professionals, I feel like leaders
Mm-hmm.
can really help their teams, move forward from surviving the change to
Mm-hmm.
hopefully shaping it. So,
Yeah.
an organization that I got to work with, which is a nonprofit, and knew that maybe, there could be some impacts to them,
Sure.
tried to get ahead of it and did a great
Okay.
job. So it was if this happens, what are our plans moving forward?
Okay.
So it started
Okay.
to prepare their leaders to be able to lead in a time that feels very unstable right now.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I feel like HR professionals are really uniquely positioned to be that
Mm-hmm.
stabilizing strategic support,
Yes.
particularly in those industries, which I can't think of any industry, honestly, right now that's not facing some sort of,
Yeah, they're
economic,
all going through
tariffs,
it.
political,
Yes.
like all of it, right?
All of it,
So,
absolutely. No,
yeah,
it's such a good point. Well, and I love that you keep coming back to human resources. And again, we always talk about it's not that we expect our HR people out there to do it all. It's not their job to push through all of this. But I like that you said the company that you worked with in Texas that you met with their HR person. Who should have a better pulse on the organization than human resources, right? And I
absolutely.
like what you
Yes.
said there with like HR needs to be involved and they're uniquely positioned. But I wonder how many of our HR professionals out there forget these pieces because sometimes HR gets really just bogged down in the
They're busy.
processes and the I don't know, the day-to-day grunge of HR, and they
Hmm.
oftentimes even forget about the people side of human resources as well. So,
Yeah,
how can you
so
help? Like,
true.
what advice would you give to our HR community about thinking about, we're not telling you all you have to take on the full burden of the change, but
Yeah.
how can they be more actively engaged in helping leaders through these difficult times?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because I've had some conversations recently with some HR leaders who have said, we forget sometimes in HR that we need support too. And we're
Yeah,
out there helping everybody else and we forget to help ourselves.
right. It's a
So,
valid point.
yeah. And so I think one of the things that HR can do, because a lot of times HR, so like when I was in HR years ago, it was I'm here to support manufacturing, or I'm here to
Mm-hmm.
support engineering, or I'm here to support
Right.
sales. Um, so I think if HR teams can come together and kind of put out on the table, and maybe you use post-its, maybe you use whiteboards.
Sure.
What are
Yeah,
all the changes we've got going on? And just get it all out there.
I like
And
that.
how do these things intertwine and or even maybe uh, sort of butt up against each other? And
Right.
put some sort of a mapping together,
Okay.
just to create that clarity even for HR, right?
Right.
And I think HR folks need to remind themselves too, it's okay to take a step back sometimes too and just
Yes,
take a breath and just know
absolutely.
anything you're doing is better
Yeah,
than nothing. And,
that's so true.
you're there to also partner with those leaders across
Yes.
those various departments and those various
Yeah.
agencies and, really be a thought partner with them. And you can be vulnerable too. You don't have to have all the answers.
Such a great point. Yes.
Yeah. I used to
Yeah.
feel like I had to have all the answers when
Of
I was in
course.
HR. And of course, you cannot have all the answers,
No,
but
you can't.
um,
No.
the leaders that I got to partner with
Mhm.
really taught me the value of that partnership. I was a sounding
Right.
board for them.
Yeah.
I was the one
Yeah.
saying, "Wonder how people will feel about that." Let's go back to that care model, right? Wonder how people
Yeah.
will feel about that.
Exactly.
And how are
It's a really
you
good
doing?
point.
Linda, you're the leader. How are you feeling
Yeah.
about this? How are
Right,
you doing?
right. Yeah, that's
So,
a really good point because we do forget to do that sometimes. And that
yeah.
just kind of really rolls nicely into my next question for you because change fatigue is real.
Mm-mm-mm.
So, how can you build trust in organizations that are just tired of change? And we're seeing a lot of
Always.
this right now too, right?
Yeah.
Because I think we've all been on a roller coaster ride since COVID, honestly,
Yeah.
and the amount of organizational changes that have happened over the last 5 years
Mm.
has been significant. And I think that probably the organizations are a little tired too, but the employees are definitely feeling the fatigue of one more change, one more thing. How do we deal with that? So, how can you use change management skills to help navigate through what is feeling like change fatigue?
Yeah. And there's all kinds of models out there, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
ADKAR, there's so many different models. But what I would say is let's just keep it simple. Start with listening, not
Okay.
solutioning.
I like
Let's
that.
let's hear and listen and, find out how people are feeling, what things that we can uncover that maybe we were not
Mm-hmm.
aware of before we get to this solutioning, right? And
Right.
change. Um, Anytime, something goes well, it's the small things, just doing, like I said, the icebreaker with a bunch of leaders who were,
Yes.
folded arms. Do some, look for those quick wins.
Yeah.
Look for opportunities to say, you know what? Our team is awesome. Our team, has survived a lot of change.
Yeah.
Remind them they have survived a lot of change,
Good point. Yes.
and it is unfortunate because when I first started doing change management, I would go into organizations and I would say, okay, what other changes do you have going on at this time? And they would say, oh, we don't really have anything else going on at this time. Or maybe it was one other thing coming down the road.
Yeah.
That is no longer the case.
Mm-mm.
It's a state of mind
Yes.
that people are in, and it is, constant change. Um,
Absolutely.
but I think if we approach it as, change is hard, change sucks. I hate hearing all that stuff. It's not always
Yes.
terrible. Change sometimes
No,
leads to innovation.
it
Change
does.
sometimes leads to opening, other opportunities and different jobs. And, my
Very
daughter's going
true.
into healthcare, and I'm like, by the time you graduate from medical school, which is a little ways down the road, there's going to be all these different opportunities
Oh,
too in the
so
healthcare
true.
space, than there are
Yes.
even today.
Very
So,
true.
so change fatigue is real. I totally get that. The other thing I would say is leaders do not hide behind change or don't hide, when it comes to change.
Yes.
Like be out there, be visible, be honest,
Yes.
be
Such a
human.
good
That
point.
is
Yes.
okay. And people
Absolutely.
will attach to that more so than they will attach to someone who is just talking the talk and saying what they think they should. Linda, you and I saw
Right.
that when we went to Denver International Airport
Yeah.
with Ken Green, right?
Yes.
He got
Yeah.
up in front of these big guys who were not happy about this
Yes.
new timekeeping system. And he was like, listen, guys, here's what's going to happen. Here's when it's going to happen. I'm not super crazy about this either, but guess what? I see the value in it. And so I'm going on the journey. Will you come along with
Yes.
me?
Such a
Something
great
really
point.
helpful when people are feeling change fatigued to know they've got a leader that they can follow and that
Yeah.
person has their back.
I think that's a really good point around all of that. Is it keeps kind of coming back to leadership. It comes
Mm-hmm.
back to asking questions,
Yeah.
being curious, empathy, all of those components that just factor
Trends.
into it.
Yeah. Themes.
Yeah, it's about being human, right? It's
Yeah.
thinking about like it's a business, yes, but there are humans that work for it. I always
Yeah.
joke, I always say being a manager would be easy if you didn't have to manage people, right? because people are what makes it more complicated. But it's also what makes it rewarding and enjoyable, and you
Yes.
learn so much from all of it in the
Love
long
that.
run if you're willing to really embrace it. So I love what you're saying there. One of the things, and I'm curious about, is that we'd be remiss if we didn't mention artificial intelligence, because I'm wondering what you're seeing out there with your clients
Mhm.
and the people that you're working with, and what you're hearing in the industry today, because I know what I'm hearing and seeing is a lot of people are very afraid of what's coming with AI, and
Yep.
I think that will it be a matter of time where there was just recently an article about the big consulting firms being impacted by AI, because
Mm.
why are you going to pay multi-millions dollars to bring in these firms when you literally could just go into ChatGPT and type in some data, and maybe it spits something out. What are your thoughts? What are you hearing? It's like, because people are scared, and I don't know how do we manage through this change? Like
Yeah.
this one's an interesting one to me. It reminds me a little bit about when technology really came out, when computers
Yeah.
came out, and
Right.
there are still people today that are resistant to using computers. So imagine
Yeah.
what it's going to feel like with artificial intelligence.
There are key moments in history where things like artificial intelligence come out, and it is the first, and of course it is your first reaction is fear,
Absolutely.
because
It
you
is.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's the unknown, and it's loss. I always say
Yes.
change is about loss too. So,
Yeah,
and be
that's true.
empathetic about that as well, right?
Right.
So right now with AI, people are like, oh, am I going to lose my job?
Mhm.
Are we going to lose? What are we going to lose, essentially? And
Yes,
so,
yes. What are we gonna lose? That's a great
yeah.
question. Yeah.
And so I
Mhm.
think it's, I mean, I obviously don't have all the answers when it comes to AI,
Sure.
but what
Yeah.
I will say is if you put your head in the sand, this AI ain't going away.
It is
So I
not.
think if we can learn all we can about it, learn how
Yeah.
it can support us, learn how it can impact us, let's be real.
Right?
And then, and like for those consultancies, one thing I would say is, if you go into an organization and you are truly wanting to support the people and be consultative as opposed
Yes.
to, here's how you should do it, and let me turn
Yes.
over these templates,
Yes,
then
yes.
I think people are still going to invite us in, is my
I
hope.
think so too. Yeah. Well, and it's still
Hopefully,
the
we're
people
thought
side of it,
partners.
right?
Yeah.
Yes. And that's it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference in what you've said here is it's
Yeah.
the co-creation, right? It's
Co
the
creation.
partnership, it's the people side of
Yeah.
it. It's not just the here I am, I'm Cyndi, I'm the expert, and I'm going to tell you what to do.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
it's helpful in things like I was talking to a client the other day and she was like, "Yeah, we use it's not ChatGPT, but they use another AI.
Maybe co-pilot
Copilot,
or
thank
yes,
you.
yes, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
when they're doing communications out to like their team, in
Yeah.
the corporate comms folks."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, we use that. We'll type something up and then we
Yeah.
pop it in there and it just makes it sound that much better and then we kind of hone it and
Right.
fine tune it." I was like, "Good for you." Like if you are
Absolutely.
looking at it as again as a partner,
Yes.
and you have to prompt it and put good information
Yeah.
in to get good information out.
That's right.
And I would also, not rely on it for, citing statistics always. I
Yeah,
would always,
always,
go and check
exactly.
that out, but
Fact checked them, yep.
fact check. But I do think there are benefits to it. So if as much as you can, I am just such a firm believer in curiosity and then taking some action around things
Yes.
will
Mhm.
help to sort of reduce a little bit that anxiety that people sometimes get
Yeah.
with when it comes to change, and then just having that
Right.
empathy and knowing that you can refine things as you need to and experiment with things and like just be curious,
I like
and
that.
have
Yeah, it's a good
grace for
reminder to
yourself.
people. And I
Yeah.
like your reminder too about the fact that there have been pivotal
I like
times
the
throughout
word.
history, pivotal, new word,
Yeah.
is throughout history that have been, you think about the change from horse and carriage to the
Right.
automobile, and thinking
The
about,
industrial age. I
the
mean,
industrial age. I remember, you
yeah.
and I are young enough to remember when there were no computers,
Yes.
and the internet had not come about yet. And so that was a huge change.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot that are really monumental. And now you look back on them and it's like, oh, that was
How
a
did we ever
change.
live without
Yeah,
them?
it's like,
Yeah.
it's become second nature. And I
Right.
suspect AI is going to be very similar to that. So I like what you're saying. Don't put your head in the sand, because those people who do choose to put their head in the sand will get left behind. I do think it's really
Yeah.
important to take advantage of the opportunity to educate yourself around
Yeah.
AI, use it smart, and really find those opportunities. So that's a really good one.
Yeah.
So I just had to throw in AI because we'd be remiss if we didn't, because everybody is talking about AI these days. But
No,
everything
smart.
that you've talked about is really just very focused in on compassion, and that is something that you bring to any organization. I know that
Oh,
personally, having
thanks,
worked with
Linda.
you throughout the years, is
Thank
that
you.
you bring a compassionate and calming approach to what you're doing with this. So, what's one thing you would say to our HR community when they're feeling overwhelmed by a big change?
Mm,
What's the first thing they should do?
yeah. Uh, just know you don't have to do it alone. You
That's a
know,
great reminder.
find
Yes.
your leader who is your ride or die.
Yeah.
Find those informal champions. I love
Yeah.
those people. And they're not always managers and leaders.
No.
They,
And
you know,
they're not always Pollyanna sunshine either.
yeah,
You and I experienced that with finding some change champions who
yes,
were not the most positive people in the beginning and were very negative, but once they embraced they turned the corner and they
they
became huge
shared
change
information
champions.
with us, though, right?
They
That maybe we
did.
hadn't
Yeah.
thought of. And
Oh my gosh, we
so,
learned a lot. Yeah.
yeah, so just sort of keeping an open mind. And, those are the folks too, really, that if you can share the why, the WIFMs, the
Yeah.
impacts, and then they're like, "Oh, I get it. Let me
Yeah.
be, let me be one of those champions." They are very
Yeah.
powerful. So great people, there as well. So
I
you
like that.
don't have to do it alone. Please do take the time, support each other. I know how
Yes.
difficult HR is because I was
Yeah.
there and I was
Absolutely.
there years ago. I think it's gotten exponentially more challenging over time.
Oh, because everything like I always talk about that with payroll, right? When it was
Yeah.
just literally your federal, state, FICA type
Yeah,
of, and then all of a sudden 401ks and benefits and this and that and everything. And now all the laws and regulations that have continued to evolve in HR, it's gotten so much more complicated. Yeah,
right.
it's a great
So give
point.
yourself some grace,
I like that.
give yourself,
Yeah.
like, know who your people are that you can be real
Yes.
with. We used to
Yeah.
call it the bubble.
That's right. Got
And
to
that's
have that.
okay too. Yeah, you
Absolutely.
have to be able to do that. So,
No.
yeah, those are the
That's
things
really
that I
good.
would
I
say.
like that. This
Yeah.
has been so much fun. I always say
It
I love having
has.
our guests on, but I like our time together
I
and
do
just really
too.
being able to have these real conversations. And what I
Thank
love is
you.
that our listeners are not just going to walk away with just insights, but you've given them some real actionable items and tools that they can use and can
I
really
hope
impart
so.
in their journeys right away. And so yeah, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and remember that change is not just it's not just about being hard. It is an opportunity, and your reminder that people are not alone in it, and build your community and create your support group. And I
Yes.
think, and we're here as well as a support. If you're going through a big change and you want to bounce ideas off of us,
Yeah,
Cyndi and
shoot
I
us
are
a
both
message
always
on
happy. Yeah,
LinkedIn or
exactly. Connect with
yeah.
us there.
Yeah,
We're always happy to talk through things, and we've got an amazing community that we've developed. So if we
we
don't know, we
do.
probably know someone who does.
Yeah.
So yeah. No,
Network.
this has been fun. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for
Thank
joining as our
you.
special guest on the Her Resources podcast today. And for all of our listeners out there, we thank you very much. And we thanks for all your support. And please make sure that you like, subscribe, share to our podcast out there. And check out our website. Cyndi and I have been working on that, the Her Resources podcast. We've got some guest blogs and we've got some other pieces of information out there, and we're going to keep building up our community. And so check that out as well. And until next time, we hope you all have a fantastic time.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of the HR Her Resources podcast. We're so happy to have you with us on this journey. Music and production by Linda Misegadis of LJM Productions. We'd also like to thank our intern, Lauren Banas, for creating our logo and supporting our social media postings. If you'd like to connect with Logan or Lauren, you can find their information in the show notes. If you found value in our discussion and think someone else might as well, please follow, subscribe to our LinkedIn, and share with a friend. Until our next episode, please take care and continue to support one another.